And then next up is like who's on it and how are you doing? And again, you can put these in any order. Just like that's next up in the way that I've sort of done the flow of the sections here. So who's on it is your team. Key piece here is, can you describe the talent and the relevance to the task at hand? Now, many of you here, especially that big bar chart that said aspiring founders, might say, well, it's only me. I say, well, that's okay. You could still fill a really impressive team slide if it's only you. The first piece to think about is to think of it as an hourglass, not a classic pyramid. So think of all the people that are advising you that have got good experience and are fans of what you've done. You've shared your idea and they think it's a great idea. And it could be an uncle or an aunt. It doesn't have to be sort of sort of a hugely formal relationship. It could be the friendly advisors here in Sci-City, of which, sort of, Irvi, Matt, me, sort of we count ourselves potential advisors for you. So the key piece is filling out the top piece of the funnel here, the top piece of the hourglass, shows whoever's reading your deck that you know what you're skilled in, you know what you're not skilled in, and you know what you need to be skilled in. And you have called upon these fans of yours, and they are willing to advise you on this, and they've got interesting CVs and resumes in addition to you. The next piece is, like, again, if you're on your own and you're this aspiring founder from the bar chart earlier, is that you don't need to put in people that you've hired or sort of free volunteers that are being won over. You could put in my intended hires. Hire one would be here. My next hire would be here. And then also is a powerful information signal to whoever is reading this, because you're showing that you know how your venture is going to grow and where you're going to need your first people. So the idea here is that you can have a very strong team slide that could be filled with quite a few names and positions, but it's still just you, and it's just you in a PowerPoint right now. So don't be deterred and say, I can't do a team slide until I have a team. You can have a team because you're thinking through the team. And just try and be able to describe those first few hires and why. But the key piece here, just like don't leave the competition slide out, because everyone has competition. Everyone has a kind of competitive context. Otherwise, you will not be believed. Likewise with the team, is just like you can't do this truly alone. So who are your partners? Who's your ecosystem? How do you think you're going to bring this to market, and who with? And then just about any audience is going to need sort of some sort of angle on the financials. We're paired often in Sci-City with storytelling with spreadsheets, so I'm not going to touch on the expertise behind how you create the slide, more than say have a slide in here that brings into your plan the pertinent points. There's a variety of different formats, so you could almost like sort of semi-beautify a spreadsheet like you are on the left, or create a more pictorial approach of eras. Like year one is MVP, year two is full national launch, year three is international growth, and giving some metrics. The key piece, though, is to explain your drivers. Most people, especially if you're seeking funding, they don't tend to trust your numbers. It's almost like, hate to break it to you, they do their own numbers, but what they do look very closely at is that you understand the drivers of your business, and you understand how you're going to build your drivers of your business. So this is a really important slide, even if finance isn't a strong suit, and even if your numbers are not going to be believed. It's really important to have something like this. And if you are asking for funding at this stage, this is probably the right slide to say, we are looking for X funding. This is going to enable us to do Y, and being very clear on that. And then to round it off, in the last of the 10 sections, I'd almost say is equally as important as slide one, as number one. That's sort of the goal, is the idea of communicating that you know what's important, and your traction and progress is also clearly communicated. So the idea here of like progress and priorities. Down the left-hand side, you've really clearly identified and displayed, the key areas that you know you need to be successful. Whether it's sort of month one and you haven't made a thing yet, or year 4 and you're going into full national launch, it's likely that your business or venture needs to be brilliant at these 3 or 4 areas. Could be product, marketing, could be brand, could be team and partners. Whatever the thing is, you've named it very clearly and you put it down the left-hand side. And then the middle column says, we've managed to achieve this to date. Progress till now is this. and you're showing, I've made some really good progress on these, even if, you know, in early days, it's a very light sentence. It's like, I have talked to 20 experts about X, or I've talked to, you know, sort of 3 people about Y. That's still good. And you've attended 2 workshops. Put whatever it is in there in terms of your traction against what's critical and important. And then priorities is like what you're doing next to focus on, that is the sort of, you know, what you know you need to do next. There's an incredible amount of information on here that you will need to think about, but more importantly for the plan, it's an incredible amount of information to your audience, because they go, this person really knows their venture. They know what's important to drive it, they're getting some traction, and they know what they're doing next. It's an incredibly powerful slide, especially when you pair it with the powerful goal, the super clear vision and mission in section 1. So that's it. That's 10 slides. You might want to finish it with a nice logo, compelling visual, a restatement of why, you know, sort of why team up with me, why buy me, etc. But that's the 10 slides. And I wanted to go back to the scaffolding and indeed the squiggles, and say that you know, sort of really the richness in this is going to come in putting in what's in your head and sort of dropping it into all the right places, and then making this your own. And not being too confined to my numbers 1 to 10 or my titles. Is just the idea of like, take these, they are built on a number of different VCs, TED Talks, mentoring, mentees, local venture partners, etc. And they seem to sort of all coalesce around ideas similar to these 10. So if you can cover those, then you're hopefully on a good track. And it's maybe sort of some frameworks to put ideas that are already in your head and put them into the right place.